What's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another video where we discuss how X will impact the game. This time we're going to look at how the first appearance of the legendary Super Saiyan will impact the Dragon Ball Super card game. So before we get into this video, if you guys are new to the channel, hitting that like button and that subscribe button would be super duper awesome of you guys. We do have a Discord server, which the link to that is in the description down below. We talk about everything Dragon Ball Super related there, so check that out. And if you guys are longtime fans of the channel, want to help me out, check out my Patreon link down in the description below as well. You guys can help me out, bring you guys this content that you guys love, and you guys can get some awesome articles and other cool perks on the Patreon as well. So check that out. I do have a couple Patreon shoutouts I got to get to. Thank you guys so much for helping me out. Gokori, Muteki, Ben, and William. Thank you guys so much for helping me out and really just, allowing me to better the channel. Thank you guys so much. All right, so we'll get into this video. So we're going to talk about how the first appearance of the legendary Super Saiyan Goku up against Frieza. We're going to talk about how that's going to impact the Dragon Ball Super card game, talk about the quality of the cards, things like that. I mentioned to you guys before, I like doing the videos in this fashion because I get to talk about an archetype as a whole, and I really like doing that. I think it makes it more cohesive instead of just going through the random spoilers that we do get. I like doing this format a little bit better. So we'll get into it. A Green Sun Goku leader. So he's a burst 2, but he's not just typical burst 2 draw card. When he attacks, you can choose one green card in your hand, place in the drop area, and if you do, draw 2 cards. So a few things here. He's almost like a Harudegarn, which is pretty nuts. You can discard any green card, so it's not the benefit of being any battle card, but however it is any green card. So you can actually ditch green dead extra cards in your hand. Got a dead negate in your hand, you can ditch it. Got a dead preemptive strike in your hand, you can ditch it and draw 2 cards. Kind of weird that when this thing swings, it will actually remove 4 cards from your deck. I mean, it's a burst 2 and a draw 2. So pretty nuts. I mean, I kind of wish they just didn't put the burst 2 on this. I don't think this leader necessarily needs it with the way it just, is Harudegarn-like and ditching 1, draw 2. But that ditch 1, draw 2 is an incredibly strong effect. So that's really good to start with. So when you're laced at 4 or less, you may choose 2 energy, switch them to active mode, flip this card over. And we have Goku, the legendary Super Saiyan. So auto sparking 5, when this card attacks, draw 1 card. And if a Krillin is in your drop area, this card gets plus 5k and double strike for duration on the turn. So I guess they added the burst to make it a more relevant sparking effect, but even with that ditch 1, draw 2, I could still see it being a relevant sparking effect, and you can still just as easily get Krillin to the drop area. So I do wish it wasn't a burst 2 because self-mill in this game is not really the best thing ever. I mean, in a deck like this, you're not going to have so much graveyard recursion, but nevertheless, that Harudegarn-esque effect lets you see a lot of cards really fast. So we've got the SR of the set for this archetype. We've got Final Showdown on Goku. This card's really cool. So he's a base double striker. Auto, when a Krillin with an energy cost of 4 or more in your battle area is KO'd by your opponent. If your leader card is green or black, play this card from your hand. And you can't play Final Showdown on Goku for duration of the turn. So pretty generic summoning conditions. I mean, you play him, he's a normal 5 drop, but you can play him for free by having a Krillin on your board popped. So that's pretty easy, with the Krillins in this archetype especially, or that 1 drop blocker Krillin from like set 1. And this guy comes down for free if your leader is just green or black. So this is actually accessible in like something like Shenron, which can be pretty OP depending on the right build, but of course it is made for this deck. And when you play this card from your hand, so they already kind of saved that from being broken in Shenron, choose up to 1 card in your opponent's battle area, ignoring barrier, and KO it. So we got it. This is really one of the first instances of like straight up spot removal for barrier, which is something really good that green has now. So this is a great reason to play this archetype specifically. I mean, because this is going to have like really great synergy with the Krillins that we'll see later. But I mean, this having access to barrier removal straight up is really good. I mean, no energy restriction, nothing like that. Really solid. And we have the SPR. I'm not a huge fan. Honestly, this is like the first set. I like the SRs better than the SPRs. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of this like kind of corny text up here, but to each their own. So next up, we've got Hyperspeed Son Goku, kind of pimp slapping Frieza in the face. So when you play this card, choose up to 2 cards from your life, add them to your hand. So he's got that Digging Deep, Source of Power-esque effect. This is a Goku you can use to fuse though in green. That's a 15k, so that's pretty cool to note. If you choose to add 1 or more cards to your hand, this card gains 15k power and critical for duration of the turn. So a 30k crit swing that draws you 1 or 2 cards is pretty solid. The only thing is that Source of Power and Digging Deep, they can put on a little bit more pressure. They can swing through 1 negate, but this thing is a giant 30k beater at critical. So turn 3, your opponent may have tapped out to your deck, not thinking it's that serious, but this can really punish them for that. So that's pretty cool to consider that you do get this guy in place of like a Digging Deep or a Source of Power. So we have another 1-drop SR. Now this is something like at first glance you might get scared about, thinking about like Bardock the Progenitor, but this card's not that scary. So 1-drop green, when you play this card, draw a card. So green got their first cantrip, just play it, draw a card. But he does have an additional effect. Activate main once per turn for 2 green energy. This card gains 15k power and critical for duration of the turn. So, I mean, it's nifty. I mean, just the fact that it's a draw one is cool already. I mean, if it was just a draw one, it probably wouldn't get the SR spot. But because it's an activate main once per turn, I mean, if this thing just lingers around the board, you can pick up additional value later. So this is really going to be a crit heavy theme, which is kind of cool. And he gets another SPR. Not too bad on this one, I guess. Fledgling Duo, Sun, Gohan. So 2-drop barrier. Permanent, reduce the energy cost of Krillin in your hand by 1. You must pay a specified cost even if it exceeds the reduced energy cost. So unfortunately it doesn't turn the other Krillin into a free blocker, but this guy is pretty much essential to this archetype's deck. I mean, you want to make your Krillins much cheaper so that you're getting the most efficiency possible. And then we've got Vegeta fully recovered. Auto, when you play this card from a drop area, this card gains dual attack for the duration of the turn. And when this card attacks, choose one of your opponent's battle cards when energy costs 4 or less and KO it. So this is not necessarily going to be, the stones in this deck in particular, but this is going to be an insane wish card, an insane card to wish back in like all your different Shenron strategies. Really solid, because you wish him back, he gets dual attack, and then you pop 2 4-drops or less if if they don't have barrier. So this card is just really solid overall, although I don't think it's going to be great in this particular archetype deck. Tactical Victory Vegeta. This is a card that we really needed in this game, or a card we really needed. When you play this card, choose a 1 field card in your opponent's battle area, place it in the owner's drop area. We finally got an answer to field spells, which is really solid. So your opponent can't just constantly get value off their Planet Vegeta or their Broly's Ring, things like that. Really happy about this card. This card's really cool. Ever Dependable Bulma, super combo. Don't really care about it. Just not really don't care about it, but like Paragus, when that card comes out, is going to replace probably all green super combos. Doesn't matter what it is for the most part. That card just absolutely nuts. Almost better Hoy. The only thing that makes it a little less better is that it's not tied to blue, it's tied to green, but that card's absolutely insane. But when you combo this card, if your leader is a Shenron card or green Saiyan card, your life's at 5 or less, draw 1 card. And this card gets 10k power for duration of the turn. So kind of cool that Shenron has a new usable super combo. However, you're probably going to use the Trunks almost every other time because you care more about the sparking effect than the life effect. So something to note there. Persistent Assault Krillin, our first 4-drop Krillin. Barrier, when you play this card, draw 1. Permanent, if your leader card is a green or black and this card's in rest mode, your opponent can't attack leader cards. So a few things to note here. The Gohan will reduce the cost of this card by 1, and when you play this card, he will draw a card. So he's almost got that like Vegito effect where he's like a deadly defender, except he is 5k weaker, but he does draw a card every time. So pretty cool. He comes down, replaces himself. Your opponent has to get through him to get to your life, and then you're going to trigger your final showdown Goku effect to come into play and blow something up, which is pretty cool. I mean, dropping a 5-drop for free after drawing a card, pretty cool, and defending your life at the same time. Fledgling Duo Krillin, blocker. So he's a 4-drop blocker, which is pretty steep, but when you play this card, choose one of your opponent's battle cards and KO it. So more spot removal in the archetype. Basically a 3-drop 15k spot removing blocker. So you're gonna just basically dictate when your opponent KOs it as long as they swing, and then you're gonna be able to drop your final showdown Son Goku. So this card in certain instances will be better than the Krillin, but the Krillin does have barrier, so that's some give and take right there. But as long as things KO'd, you're gonna drop your Goku. Dende Vanilla, we don't care about it. Chile the Beautiful. When one of your opponent's battle cards is KO'd, you can choose 1 card in your hand and place it in the drop area. So this will be just a generically good 2-drop down in this deck. I mean, it's just your deck pretty much revolves around KOing your opponent's battle cards. So making them ditch cards on top of that is just a generically good effect. So definitely not bad in the deck. So Plea for Salvation. This card gains desires in all areas. Activate main if your leader card is a Shenron card. Choose 1 green battle card in your drop area with energy cost less than or equal to your current energy and play it. Then choose one of your opponent's battle cards with energy cost 2 or less and KO it. So this is essentially a world piece for green battle cards, and on top of that you get some added spot removal for 2-drop or less. Very, very good. This card right here, card of safe return. Frieza Army Healing Pod. Once per turn, when you play a green battle card from your drop area, draw 1 card. So yeah, the card of safe return, I mean, every time you play a card from your drop area, you're going to draw 1. Again, not really going to happen all the time in the Legendary Super Saiyan deck itself, but this card is just absolutely bonkers for any green Shenron based strategy. And you can, this effect is not really that great, but you can tap 2 green and 2 colorless, place this card in the drop area, choose 1 battle card with energy cost 4 or less from your drop area and play it. So this does give those green decks that aren't Shenron based some access to grave recursion, but tapping 4 for that is just not really worth it. It's just so much better in Shenron decks where you're going to play a Child's Wish, bring something back, and then draw 1 off the Child's Wish basically for activating this card. So insanely good in green Shenron strats, insanely good. One of my favorite cards they've ever printed this entire game, Preemptive Strike. Counterplay for green. If your leader card is green and the battle card your opponent is playing has energy cost 4 or less, it is placed in the other's draft area instead of being played. This card is just so amazing. I mean, this card is just something I've wanted for the longest time. Essentially a Solemn Judgment, the opponent's battle card just basically gets negated and sent to the drop area for 2 green energy. I think it's costed pretty appropriately. I mean, this definitely did not deserve to be a 1-drop card, but this at the 2 cost is, in my opinion, pretty well balanced because in green particularly, it is pretty hard to leave up 2 green if you want to make most of your plays, especially in like a mono green deck particularly. So I'm really happy with this card. Kind of wish it hit higher drops, maybe 5 drops. It can't really hit 6 or 7 drops because then your opponent's investing kind of into nothing almost all the time as long as you have 2 green up. But I mean, they could have messed around with that. But still a really cool card. Really happy about it. So let's talk about how this entire archetype is going to basically impact the game. So I mean, the thing is, like, this is not going to be a meta-defining deck by any stretch of the imagination. It is really cool that they have access to barrier spot removal through the Final Showdown Goku. That is really, really cool. But I mean, you got to play some subpar cards in your deck to really, you know, get the strategy rolling. So like Fledgling Duo Krillin and the other Krillin, Persistent Assault Krillin. Unfortunately, not really the best cards. I mean, even though the Gohan makes them into 3 drops, I mean, you drop the Gohan on turn 2, doesn't even draw you a card. So that's kind of unfortunate on that end. However, yeah, you do have to play some subpar cards in your deck. I mean, the Krillins are just not that great. That is, you know, the Krillin does spot remove regardless of cost. So I mean, for 3 energy, you can remove anything off the board, like a 7-drop Cell, which is kind of cool. But again, not like the best thing ever. So yeah, this archetype specifically, not going to be amazing, but it's going to be very, very fun for casual play. You know, definitely along those lines, it'll be very, very fun, very, very sustainable. And I'm definitely looking forward to building it. You know, like I always say, casual DBS is best DBS. But those are my opinions on how this archetype is going to impact the game, the Legendary Super Saiyan. So let me know what you guys think about this archetype down in the comments below. I'm actually really interested to know what you guys think about it, what you guys have been tinkering with. Let me know that. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Joey. This is Cross with TCG, and I will see you in the next video.